For the past couple of years, I've been a full-time freelancer. That is, up until a few months ago. That's when I retired from freelancing to focus on creating educational content and paid courses. Over my freelance career, I've gone from charging around $300 per project all the way to over $30,000 for a single project. Now, my goal here is to share what worked for me, and hopefully it'll help you take that next step if you're struggling to make freelancing work for you. Today's video will cover the exact steps that I think you should take to land your first paid freelance gig. Now, this is the second video in a series of guides all about freelancing. So if you haven't seen the previous video, I will link it above. Now, the advice in this video assumes that your work and your skills are good enough to be seen as a professional. So let's say you have at least 3 years of experience building your skills and your work is as good or better than half of the other designers you see online offering the same services that you will. This is me trying to give you a roadmap of small actionable steps that you can take to make sure you get your first paid client as soon as possible. Step number 1 is display your work. You need a portfolio. It's got to be easy to find. I recommend using Squarespace. Yes, you can use social media, but I recommend you set up a personal website. It is not that expensive. It is $12 a month or $18 a month, depending on which plan you go for, and that gets you a free custom URL. No, I'm not an affiliate. I do not make any money for sending you over to Squarespace. The reason I'm recommending them is because I personally use Squarespace up until this year. I've been using Squarespace for 7 or 8 years, and the reason I like it is because you spend more time publishing content on a Squarespace site than you do configuring and fixing and coding the website. I think that you need to remove all those barriers and make it as easy and frictionless to publish work on your website as possible. Because the problem is so many people put in a lot of time to make a good website. When they're done, they're burnt out, and then they don't continue publishing on it. So don't let that be you. So pony up the money to create a personal website, choose a professional URL, something that's as close to your name as possible. And as far as the website design itself, keep it dead simple. Do not decorate it. Don't go for weird color palettes. Don't try to be clever. Don't come up with some revolutionary navigation. Keep it simple. I think you should have 2 pages maximum on your website. Have your work page, which is the home page. When someone lands on your URL, yourname.com, whatever that is, they should see your work front and center. They shouldn't have to make one single click to see any of your work. Then, if you want, you can have an about page or a contact page. That's where you're going to tell them who you are, what your skills are, what you're offering, how to get in touch with you, why they should get in touch with you. And also, pet peeve of mine, don't play the whole we and us game. Don't pretend to be a company if you're a single person. If you're a single person, own it, be clear, say I, me, whatever pronouns you prefer, but be clear about you being one person. Don't pretend to be a whole company. People who want to spend money with you, they need to trust you, and you need to start by being honest with them from the start, because you don't want them to all of a sudden find out that you're just a single person, okay? Lastly, link to your website everywhere. Your goal once you get your website up is to get as many people to it as possible. You want them to see your work. You want them to understand what you do and what you're about and what you're capable of. So make sure you do easy things like in your email signature, link to your website. On your social media bio, link to your website. Anytime you go somewhere related to work, have your website easy to find. Leave breadcrumbs for people, okay? So that's the first step. You got to get your work online, easy to find, no password protected anything, no private accounts, just put your work up front and center, okay? Next, step 2, define what you do. So for example, if you're going to be a freelancer and offering a service, you need to be crystal clear as to what you're offering your clients. For example, I was doing product visualization for the last number of years. I could have said I was an industrial designer because I have a degree in that. I could have said I was a designer. I could have said I was a render artist. I kept going narrower and narrower with my focus, and I found that the more specific I got with what I did for companies, the easier it was for people to find me, and the more likely they were to trust me in being a specialist and offering one set of skills. So it got to the point of me being a product visualization specialist who creates promotional launch media for physical goods. That is a mouthful, but when you read that, you know exactly what I do. And if you're someone looking to hire someone with those skills, you know you found somebody who's a good match, okay? So make sure you define what you do. Don't be vague. Don't be an artist, a designer, a thinker, a revolutionary. Like, that doesn't mean anything. So be specific with what you do. You can always change it. You can always pivot. You can always evolve. Next, highlight the results that you deliver. So for example, on your about or contact page where you talk about what you do, don't just say, oh, I make renderings if that's what you do. You want to talk about the results. I create images that stop the scroll. What does that mean? You know, social media, you're scrolling, you want to get someone's attention, you want to get them to stop. I make images that cut through the noise. I make show-stopping images. I make images that elicit desire. These are all things I've said in the past to promote my work, to tell people what the value of what I do is for the customer. Because people buy results, they don't buy widgets. They don't want renderings, they want revenue. So whatever that is, make sure you try to highlight what results you can deliver a client. Lastly, when talking about what you do, your portfolio talks about what you do by showing the types of work you create. So I will also say only show work in your portfolio that matches the niche that you want to be in, and also only show work that you want to do more of. So if you were a student and you did a project where you designed a chair, but you're really into fashion design, do not put that chair design on your portfolio. Only put work that shows the type of work you want to be hired to do. And if that means only having one project to start, that's fine. Then start working on personal projects, and every few weeks add a new project. Okay? We're moving quick here. I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you, but I got to keep up the momentum so it's not too long of a video. Step 3 is get a lead. So we're talking about somebody reaching out to you saying, I want to hire you for a project, okay? So what are the steps here? First thing we're gonna do is on your contact page, you need to make it easy for someone to hire you or to express interest or intent to hire you. So there's a few key things you can do to come across as available and accepting new clients without being needy and saying, I really need some work, I'll work for anything. So you don't want to pretend that you're, some seasoned veteran if you're brand new, but you can use some phrases that help put you in a good position. A phrase I really like is accepting one new client for the month of August or whatever month you're in. Saying that you're accepting one new client means that, well, it suggests that you have other clients and you've got a slot that is open. That implies that you have some experience without actually saying you have a lot of experience. We're not trying to mislead people, but accepting one new client makes it, it's more reassuring if I'm hiring you. It doesn't sound like, it's not like saying, be my first client, you know what I mean? There's a difference there. So another way you can help get yourself a lead is to pitch or sell your services. So some words that you could use on your website or social media is, for example, looking for help with a new website? Contact me to see how I can help you today. Now, I use the example of a new website, but whatever you offer, you just put that in place. So looking for this? Contact me to see how I can help you today. And whatever this is, that's where you explain or offer your type of service. And then of course, include your email address as well as a contact box or form. Don't make somebody choose one or the other. Give them both options. I'm the type of person who would rather send an email out of my inbox to somebody rather than type my email message into a submission form on a website. But everyone has their preferences, so give both options to whoever is on your website. Make it easy for someone to ask how they can work with you. All right, so hopefully by now you've got your website up, you're specific about what you're offering, you're pitching your services, and you are getting leads. Now, not every lead that comes your way should be a match. In fact, you should be too expensive for about 50% of the people who reach out to you. All right, so let's say now that you've found a lead who's a good fit. Step number 4 is going to be to land the gig. This is where you get somebody to agree to move forward with the project. At this point, I'm going to recommend that you try to set up a phone call or a video chat if possible. Now, I understand if maybe there are language barriers. In that case, rely on email to communicate. That's fine. But in my experience, when you've got someone who's a busy business person who may be looking to hire you, it's faster to get them on the phone and ask them a few back and forth questions instead of exchanging 5 or 10 emails. I find that I'm able to close deals a lot faster and better if I get on a phone and just talk with the person and learn more about what they're looking for. It's okay if you're not a good fit and you have to say, hey, I don't think this is a good match, but at least you get the process done and over quickly instead of spending a week exchanging emails. If you are relying on email, I would make sure you ask a lot of questions in clear bullet point format. That way it's very easy for someone to understand what you need answers to so we can move this process forward. I always recommend you start by asking about deadlines. Also, ask what the client wants as a result of the project. So not just what do they want you to do for them, but what do they hope will happen as a result of the project, like an outcome. Additionally, you might find it useful to ask if they've worked with other freelance clients in the past. If it's the first time they're working with a freelancer, that might help you understand that you may need to explain some of your process with them a little bit better. And it's just good to know going in kind of what to expect. Also, if they did work with a freelancer in the past, maybe ask them what went well and what did not go well. This can give you an idea if this is a very picky client, or maybe they found something that they liked a freelancer did for them in the past, and that will help you treat the client well. If they say, oh yeah, the last person we worked with always answered our calls within less than 24 hours or emails, then you know that they value a prompt response. And that's something you can use to give them a better service, okay? So if you think you can deliver the client the work they're asking for, then let the client know that you'll get back to them within 24 hours and then either call them back or send them an email. Personally, I like to send emails when I'm ready to accept a job because I can attach documents like proposals and things like that they can then run by their supervisor. So let's say you want to move forward, you reply to them 24 hours later with an email saying, yes, let's do this project, I'm excited to get started. One thing to do, be sure that you include a proposal, and that proposal should basically be a summary of what you will do for them, how much you expect it to cost your client, and then how long you think it will take you to complete the job. Now, if they had a deadline of 3 weeks, aim to get it done in say 2 or 2.5 weeks, giving yourself some cushion. Whatever that is, the proposal will include a summary of what's to expect, basically. And that's the thing that whoever's hiring you, if they have a supervisor, they'll take it to their supervisor and ask for approval on. So let's assume that the email you sent saying you're ready and happy to do the project, as well as the proposal you included, was accepted. What do you do next? Well, step number 5 is to execute on the project. Now, that doesn't mean jump in and start working right away. What I would suggest is to make sure that you have a signed agreement or a contract, whatever you want to call it. The last page of every proposal I would send, I would recommend that you have a simple 1-page contract attached to it. And the contract is just going to summarize the deliverables, so what you're going to do for the client or give them, the payment that you're going to receive in exchange for that work, and the deadlines that will be adhered to, both for you as the freelancer, as well as the payment deadlines, how long the client has to pay you in return for your work. And lastly, I suggest you include a simple cancellation clause. That just is a few sentences that describes what happens if the project gets canceled. This can be as simple as saying the client or the service provider can cancel the project at any point for any reason, and any services rendered or performed by the freelancer are to be paid up until the point of cancellation, basically. So that way you're getting paid for the work you have done, not this protects you from doing most of a project and then getting paid nothing in return if it gets canceled. And then lastly, just leave a place for both you and your client to sign and date, just to formalize the agreement, basically. So at this point, once you've executed the agreement and contract, you're ready to move forward. This is the time in which you start doing your actual work. go ahead and do your thing. This is the easy part. This is where you just perform the work that you agreed to. When that's done, that brings us to step number 6, closing out the project. So at this point, you're basically going to deliver the project, make sure all the work is done, make sure you gave them everything you agreed to, and make sure that you got paid what was agreed to, be paid to you. A week after you delivering in the project, reach back out to that contact and say, hey, I'm checking in to make sure everything looks good on the project, make sure I didn't miss anything, make sure this is meeting expectations, all that stuff. It is just showing the client that you care and that you're not just wiping your hands clean of the project as soon as you've done your part. If the client says, yeah, it looks good, we're happy with it, then go ahead and ask them for permission to share the work that you did for them with your audience. It's usually free PR for them, drives a little traffic their way, and it shows again that you care and you're proud of the work you did. Now, in some cases, you will have had to sign an NDA and the client will say no, but don't take that personally. That is just sometimes business. Sometimes you can't share the work you did for a client for whatever reason, and that's okay. But you'll never get permission to share the work you did if you don't ask. So I recommend that you ask to include it in your portfolio or to share it with your network. And then, of course, if they say yes, that's cool, then go ahead and be proud. Write a little bit of a blurb on what you did for this client, what they got out of it, why you did the work, and show them the results. And this is just more stuff you can put on your website, your social media, whatever it is. But again, be sure to make sure that your client is okay with you sharing it first. I will also say then after this, 2 weeks after you delivered the project, check back in with that client and ask if they'd be willing to give you a testimonial. Now, if the project didn't go well or it got canceled for any reason, hey, it happens sometimes. If that's the case, don't ask for a testimonial. Only ask for a testimonial for anyone who you completed a successful project for. And then use that testimonial on your website or share it with future potential leads to help them build trust in your abilities, okay? And then also, of course, let your past client know that you're open to and you appreciate referrals if they have anyone that they can refer you to for future work. Most people I know, including myself, get most of their leads through referrals. So it's very important for you to build good relationships with your past clients and make sure they're comfortable recommending you to more business owners, because business owners know business owners. So make sure you get referrals wherever you can. And finally, the last step in this process, this is bullet number 7, build momentum. So just because you finished a project, yes, you may be a little burnt out. Go ahead and have your ice cream and take that Saturday off, whatever. But don't stop there. Build momentum. Just because you finished a project doesn't mean you sit around and wait for the next person to reach out to you. Be aggressive. Publish and share as much personal and client work as possible, because the more work you're sharing, the more people are likely to reach out to you. They will see that you are an actively practicing professional in whatever you offer, and they're going to be more likely to ask if they can hire you. I also suggest to build your authority, and you can do this by writing and publishing articles, videos, social media. Basically share any knowledge you're confident about that you have. It will probably help somebody else who has less experience than you, and you will come across as being both giving, knowledgeable, and authoritative. And this goes a really far way when it comes to being credible and being someone who's easy to hire. I also suggest that you take a stance and share your unique perspectives on your industry or your niche, whatever that may be. And the last suggestion I have is to create tutorials. This is something that I obviously do. If you're watching this on my YouTube channel, you know I create tons of free tutorials. And of course, I do it to give back, but it also builds credibility. And I have gotten lots of business through having a presence on YouTube, which is owned by Google, which is another big search engine, of course. So tons of information. Hope that wasn't too exhausting. I hope that gives you a lot of food for thought and ideas of how you can go from where you're at to landing your first paid gig. So if this video was for you, I want you to get your first paid gig before the next freelance video goes up. I'm doing these about once a month, maybe a little bit less frequently than that. So you have some time, but that's my challenge for you. If you're watching this, Go ahead, get that first paid client. Don't overthink it. Don't let the process stretch out too long. Follow those steps. Let me know if they helped. And until next time, happy freelancing.